vivente, Spirito del Dio vivente, Spirito del Dio vivente, scendi su di noi, per mezzo del cuore immacolato di Maria, tua dolcissima sposa. Spirito del Dio vivente, Spirito del Dio vivente, Spirito del Dio vivente, scendi su di noi.
Yes.
We will continue with this second reflection
Nastavit ćemo naše drugo predavanje večeras,
on pride.
a govorit ćemo o oholosti.
I'm going to read from the book of Revelations,
Pročitat ćemo odlomak iz Otkrivenja,
chapter 20,
poglavlje 20,
from 7 through 10.
od 7 do 10.
Satan's doom. And when the 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be released from his prison and will come out to deceive the nations which are at the four corners of the earth, that is, Gog and Magog, to gather them for battle. Their number is like the sand of the sea, and they march up over the broad earth and surrounded the camp of the saints and the beloved city. But fire came down from heaven and consumed them, and the devil who had deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet were, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever.
Sotonin poraz. A kad prođe 1000 godina, Sotona će biti pušten iz svoje tamnice. Izići će da zavodi narode na 4 kraja zemlje, Goga i Magoga, da ih skupi za rat tako mnogobrojne kao pijesak morski. I oni uziđoše na široku površinu zemlje i opkoliše tabor svetih, ljubljeni grad. Tada siđe vatra s neba i proguta ih. A njihov zavodnik, đavao, bi bačen u ognjeno i sumporno jezero, gdje se također nalaze zvijer i lažni prorok. I bit će mučeni dan i noć u vijeke vjekova. Riječ je Gospodnja.
Pride, we can say pride is Satan.
Oholost. Možemo reći da je oholost Sotona, đavao.
Because where does pride comes from?
Jer upravo od tud dolazi oholost.
Pride comes from self-love.
Oholost dolazi od ljubavi prema samome sebi.
And self-love comes from
A to samoljublje, ono dolazi
believing I am.
iz onog vjerovanja ja jesam,
Meaning believing I am God.
što znači ja jesam Bog.
And that's what pride is all about.
I zapravo se, kad govorimo o oholosti, radi samo o tome.
If you really look at original sin,
Ako pogledamo grijeh, prvi grijeh,
you can see that everything about it is pride.
vidjet ćete da je u srži prvoga grijeha zapravo oholost.
Because pride is all about me.
Jer u oholosti se uvijek radi o meni.
Proudful people
Ljudi koji su oholi
are very big.
su jako veliki.
They occupy a lot of space.
Oni zauzimaju puno prostora.
When they come in the room,
Kad oni uđu u neku prostoriju,
they are huge,
ogromni su,
really big.
zaista veliki.
Everything about pride is big,
Sve što je vezano uz oholost je veliko,
very important.
jako važno.
And pride needs a lot of attention.
I oholost traži puno pozornosti.
And pride is always trying to control
I oholost uvijek pokušava kontrolirati
or looking for attention.
ili tražiti pozornost.
There's the only two directions of pride.
To su dva smjera kad govorimo o oholosti.
And that is exactly what the evil spirit does.
I to je ono suptilno što zli duh čini.
Is working for your attention
On radi na tvojoj pozornosti
or is controlling you.
ili te kontrolira.
And that is the nature of pride.
I to je priroda oholosti.
So the secret of true spirituality
A tajna istinske duhovnosti
is to make sure we know pride.
jest da mi znamo što je oholost.
Sometimes people say,
Ponekad ljudi kažu,
oh, she is so shy.
ona je tako sramežljiva.
Don't get her to read
Nemoj da ona čita,
because she is very shy.
ona je jako, jako sramežljiva.
When you really look at that shyness,
Ali kad malo pobliže pogledate tu sramežljivost,
you end up discovering
otkrit ćete
that shyness
da ta sramežljivost
is only pride.
zapravo je samo oholost.
It's only the fear of not making a mistake.
To je strah da se ne napravi neka pogreška.
Is vanity.
To je taština.
Vanity is the dress of pride.
Taština je haljina oholosti.
And when people are shy,
Kada su ljudi sramežljivi,
with the exception of people that have mental problems
osim onih ljudi koji imaju mentalne probleme
or emotional
ili neke
imbalance,
emocionalne neravnoteže,
but a so-called normal person,
ali takozvane normalne osobe,
shy,
sramežljive,
usually is pride.
obično se radi o
It's
oholosti,
because you don't want to make any mistake.
jer ta osoba ne želi učiniti nikakvu
You
pogrešku.
never want to make a mistake
Ne želite napraviti
in
pogrešku
front of anybody.
pred nekim drugim.
So I rather don't do it.
Dakle, radije onda to neću raditi,
I am shy.
jer sam ja sramežljiv.
And pride dresses up in many ways.
A oholost ima puno odjela.
Demons are the temple of pride.
Demoni su hramovi oholosti.
Demons have no knees.
Demoni nemaju koljena, oni se ne mogu sageti.
You couldn't possibly get a demon on his knees.
Ne možete ni na koji način dobiti da se demon sagne, da klekne.
So we can say pride has no knees.
I mi kažemo da oholost nema koljena.
One time I was talking to a lady that had problems with her husband.
Jedan put sam razgovarao sa gospođom koja je imala poteškoće sa svojim suprugom.
Her husband didn't want to be in the church.
Njezin suprug nije želio ići u crkvu.
And he had all kinds of reasons.
I navodio je razne razloge.
And he was a Catholic
On je bio katolik
by name.
po imenu.
So one day he decided to go with her to mass.
Jednog dana je ipak odlučio otići s njom na misu.
Because I had been in their house the night before.
Večer prije toga sam bio kod njih doma.
So he told me,
I on mi je rekao,
you know, after your conversation tonight,
znaš, nakon ovog razgovora s tobom večeras,
I'm going to give it a try to mass. I go tomorrow.
ja ću pokušati otići, pokušat ću nešto učiniti, idem sutra na misu.
So I sat behind them in the pew behind.
Ja sam u crkvi sjedio u klupi iza njih.
And the guy was not able to kneel any time that he had to kneel.
I taj čovjek nije bio u stanju kleknuti u onim trenucima kada je to bilo potrebno na svetoj misi.
And many times he wasn't even able to sit.
Čak u puno trenutaka nije bio u stanju ni sjediti.
He will be standing when everybody will be sitting.
On je stajao dok su svi drugi sjedili.
And his knees will not bend.
I njegova se koljena nisu se vijala.
And when we walk out of the mass,
I kada je misa završila i kad smo izašli iz crkve,
we were in the atrium.
stajali smo u predvorju.
And I asked him, how did you feel in the mass?
I ja sam ga pitao, pa kako si se osjećao na misi?
And he says, very strange.
Rekao je, jako čudno.
I couldn't kneel.
Nisam se mogao sagnuti, nisam mogao kleknuti.
And many times I couldn't even sit.
I čak puno puta nisam bio u stanju ni sjesti.
But I don't know why.
Ali ne znam zašto.
And I said, do you want me to tell you why?
A ja sam rekao, želiš li da ti kažem zašto?
So he said, I'm really afraid to hear it, but shoot.
Ok, rekao je, stvarno me je strah što ćeš reći, ali reci, pucaj, slušam.
So I said, it is pride.
Radi se o oholosti, rekao sam.
Pride cannot kneel.
Oholost se ne može kleknuti.
You were not able to give the lordship to Jesus.
Ti nisi bio u stanju dati Isusu slavu.
What was happening on that altar
Ono što se događalo na oltaru
had no significance to you.
za tebe nema nikakvog značenja.
That's why you couldn't bend those knees.
Zato se ti nisi mogao spustiti na koljena.
Because it didn't make sense to you.
Jer za tebe to nema nikakvog smisla.
There was nothing happening on the altar.
Na oltaru se za tebe ništa nije događalo.
Because everything is happening in the altar of your heart.
Jer se sve događa na oltaru tvoga srca.
Because everything is about you.
Jer se sve vrti oko tebe.
The man that was a very tall man and big and young
Bio je to vrlo visok muškarac i snažan i mlad.
cried.
I on je počeo
And
plakati.
he walked away with his wife crying.
Kako je odlazio sa svojom suprugom, plakao je.
And it took him a long time to come back to church.
I trebalo mu je dugo vremena da se ponovno vrati u crkvu.
But not because he didn't want to.
Ali ne zbog toga što on to nije želio,
Because he was afraid he wasn't able to kneel.
nego jer se bojao da ponovno neće moći kleknuti.
So he began to get closer to Jesus by praying the rosary with his wife.
Počeo je moliti se sa svojom ženom krunicu i počeo se približavati Isusu.
And a few months later,
Nekoliko mjeseci kasnije
he began to try to kneel in his house
pokušao je kleknuti u svojoj kući
when he was praying the rosary.
kada je molio krunicu.
And he was kneeling before a statue of Our Lady.
I kleknuo je pred kipom naše Gospe.
But when he was confronted with Jesus in the image of the Sacred Heart,
Ali kada se susreo sa slikom presvetog srca Isusova,
he tried many times to kneel and he couldn't bend
puno
the knees.
puta je pokušao kleknuti, ali nije uspio saviti koljeno.
And he began to send me emails
I počeo mi je pisati mailove.
asking me, why can I not kneel before the Sacred Heart of Jesus
Pitao
picture?
me zašto ne mogu kleknuti pred slikom presvetoga srca Isusova,
But I'm able to kneel before Our Lady.
ali mogu kleknuti pred Marinim kipom.
And I said, Our Lady is leading your knees towards Jesus.
Ali ja sam rekao, naša Gospa te vodi do Isusa, tvoja koljena, da mogu kleknuti prema Isusu.
It was already a big step that you knelt before Our Lady.
Već je velika stvar što si uspio kleknuti pred Marijom.
And he stopped writing to me,
I prestao mi je pisati mailove.
and like a year later,
I otprilike godinu dana kasnije,
his wife wrote to me
njegova supruga mi je napisala mail
and told me that her husband
i rekla mi je da njezin suprug
went to Sunday Mass with her in the morning,
ide s njom na nedjeljnu jutarnju misu.
and as soon as they reach the atrium of the
I
church,
čim dođu u predvorje crkve,
he went on his knees
on odmah klekne.
and walked inside the church on his knees
I on prođe kroz crkvu na svojim koljenima.
and got into the first pew.
I dođe do prve klupe
and stay on his knees the whole Mass.
i ostane na koljenima cijelu svetu misu.
And he said, I know this is not the proper way to do it,
I on kaže, ja znam da to nije pravi način da to činim,
but if I get up,
ali ako ja ustanem,
I don't know if I'm going to kneel where I have to kneel.
nisam siguran da ću biti u stanju kleknuti kada je to potrebno na
So
svetoj
I
misi.
better stay on my knees.
Onda radije biram da ostanem cijelo vrijeme na koljenima.
And now he's an amazing Catholic.
I sada je on jedan izvrstan
And
katolik.
he's got an amazing testimony about pride.
I dao je krasno svjedočanstvo o oholosti.
And he described to me how pride
I objasnio mi je kako oholost
was everywhere in his life.
bila posvuda u njegovom životu.
He even got ready of his dog.
Dao je, i te pse je dao nekome, poklonio je nekome,
Because he realized he had the dog because of pride.
jer je shvatio da je on imao te pse zato što je bio ohol.
And he changed a lot of his clothes,
Promijenio je odjevanje, način odjevanja,
his car,
automobil,
his friends,
prijatelje,
his job.
posao
Most everything had to do with pride.
i gotovo sve u njegovom životu imalo je neke veze sa oholosti.
It's probably one of the most amazing conversions I've seen.
Bio je to jedno od najzanimljivijih i najdojmljivijih obraćanja koje sam vidio.
And it's not like he had a mystical experience,
On nije imao nikakva mistična iskustva,
but I think you couldn't get more mystical than that.
ali mislim da zapravo ne možete biti mističniji od ovoga,
Because that is the way God works with the soul,
jer upravo na takav način Bog radi s dušama.
in a very basic and simple way.
Na vrlo jednostavan i osnovan način.
The knees of this man
Koljena ovoga čovjeka
were the school of love.
bila su škola ljubavi.
He learned the love of God by not being able to kneel.
On je naučio što je to Božja ljubav jer nije bio sposoban kleknuti na koljena.
And he discovered the biggest evil in him,
On je otkrio najveće zlo u samome sebi,
pride,
oholost,
by not being able to kneel.
zbog toga što nije mogao kleknuti.
It's an amazing teaching
I to je zaista prekrasna pouka.
how God molds the soul.
Kako Bog oblikuje duše.
And this is something important for us to understand.
I to je jako važno za nas, da mi možemo razumjeti.
Sometimes when you go to like Fatima, to the shrine,
Ponekad kad odete na primjer u Fatimu, svetište u Fatimi,
you see pilgrims
vidite hodočasnike
that go on their knees
koji na koljenima
for long distances until the apparition statue.
prolaze svetištem do mjesta gdje se nalazi kip ukazanja.
And I see sometimes other pilgrims
I ponekad sam znao vidjeti druge hodočasnike
watching them in awe.
koji ih promatraju u čudu
And some of them ask themselves,
i pojedini su se pitali
is that necessary?
je li to stvarno nužno?
I couldn't go on my knees for that long.
Ja ne bih mogao prijeći na koljenima tako dug put.
It must be very painful.
Mora da je jako bolno.
And one day a nun that I met in Fatima
I jednog dana jedna časna sestra koju sam susreo u Fatimi
told me one of the problems I have in Fatima
rekla je jedan od problema koje ja imam u Fatimi
is all these people on the knees.
su svi ovi ljudi na koljenima.
Because I don't think they are sincere.
Jer ja ne mislim da su oni iskreni.
They just sort of fanatical.
Oni su samo neka vrsta fanatika.
And I said, are you sure what you're saying is true?
A ja sam je upitao, jesi li sigurna da ono što si rekla da je istina?
Do you have any problems with your knees?
Imaš li ti problema s koljenima?
And she said, I don't know, I haven't think about it. I said, you better think
A
about
ona je rekla, ne znam, nisam nikad o tome razmišljala. Ja sam rekao da je bolje da o tome razmisliš.
Sure enough, I realized
Shvatio sam
that the nun was very stiff,
da je časna sestra bila vrlo ukočena,
sacramentally,
sakramentalno,
because she was not able to really kneel in church.
jer ona nije bila u stanju kleknuti, zaista kleknuti u crkvi.
I was with her in mass the next day in the morning,
Sljedeće jutro bio sam s njom na svetoj misi
and just by grace of God,
i zahvaljujući Božje milosti
I was in the very back standing
bio sam skroz na kraju crkve,
at the church where the shepherds' bodies are.
u onoj crkvi gdje se nalaze tijela pastira,
And I noticed the nun
i primijetio sam časnu
standing in the back,
koja je stajala pozadi
and she never knelt.
i nije kleknula, nikad nije kleknula.
She was standing the whole mass.
Cijelu je misu prestajala.
And so when we came out of the church,
I kada smo izašli iz crkve,
she came to me,
došla mi je
and outside in the atrium,
i opet smo bili u predvorju
and she said, do you have anything to tell me?
i pitala me, imaš li mi što za reći?
And I said, I don't think you're going to like it.
Ja sam rekao, mislim da ti se to neće svidjeti.
Are you sure you want to hear it?
Jeste li zaista sigurno da želiš to čuti?
And she said, go ahead.
Rekla je, samo reci.
And I said, you have to bend those knees.
Ja sam rekao, ti moraš kleknuti na koljena.
If you die like that,
Ako tako umreš,
you're going to spend a long time in purgatory.
puno vremena ćeš provesti u čistilištu.
And probably you're going to be in a church for a long time standing.
I vjerojatno ćeš isto tako odgovarati zato što si tako dugo stajala na svetoj misiji.
And she was like frozen,
Bila je kao smrznuta,
totally frozen.
potpuno smrznuta.
And I never saw her again.
Nisam je nikad više vidio,
But I knew it was pride.
ali znao sam da se radi o oholosti.
Because, you know, one of the few things she said
Jer jedna od stvari koje ona rekla
is that she was a mother superior for a community.
jest da je ona majka poglavarica jedne zajednice.
And you could tell that she was suffering of authoritarism.
I mogli bismo reći da je ona patila od neke vrste autoritarizma.
And authoritarism is one of the most difficult spiritual problems
A to je jedan od najtežih duhovnih problema.
of people of leadership,
Ljudi koji vode, koji su voditelji.
people that have responsibilities over other people.
Ljudi koji imaju odgovornost u odnosu na druge ljude.
The demon of pride comes in
Demon oholosti dođe
and dresses up with the authority
i on se obično obuče u taj autoritet.
and turns it into authoritarism.
I onda se pretvori u autoritarizam.
Many parents suffer of that spirit,
Mnogi roditelji pate od ovog duha.
and many priests,
Mnogi svećenici također.
many people of authority
Mnogi ljudi koji su na vlasti
suffer of authoritarism,
zapravo pate od autoritarizma.
and it's because of pride.
I to je upravo zbog oholosti.
So pride is demonic
Dakle, oholost je demonska dimenzija.
because pride is Satan.
Jer je oholost Sotona.
Satan will never bend the knee.
Sotona nikad neće kleknuti na koljena.
As a matter of fact, he has no knees.
Zapravo, on nema koljena.
So the biggest blow to Satan
Najveći udarac Sotoni
is a repentant sinner in his knees.
je pokajani, raskajani grešnik na koljenima.
Confession is the biggest torment to the devil.
I zato je ispovjed najveće mučenje za Sotonu.
Because when you go to confession,
Jer kad idete na ispovjed,
you kill pride.
ubijate ponos.
because
Ubijate oholost.
you humiliate before another human being.
Jer se vi u toj situaciji ponizite pred drugim ljudskim bićem.
And confess the most intimate part of your soul
I ispovjedate najintimnije dijelove vlastite duše.
to another sinner,
Jednom drugom grešniku,
to the priest.
svećeniku.
That is the killing of pride.
I to na takav način se ubija oholost.
That's why confession is like an exorcism.
Zato je sveta ispovjed jedna vrsta egzorcizma.
We should go very often to confession
I zato bismo trebali vrlo često ići na ispovjed.
so we can shoot pride.
Tako da možemo ubiti oholost.
Because pride is a very tough demon,
Jer oholost je vrlo žilav demon.
very sneaky.
Vrlo je lukav.
It's like very slippery.
Vrlo je lako poskliznuti se na njega.
And sometimes we don't even notice how he comes in.
Često ne primijetimo na koji način ulazi u naš život.
And this is so important to detect it
I jako je važno to otkriti.
and to find out how much of pride is in us.
I saznati koliko ponosa ima u nama.
So may God gives us the discernment of spirits
Neka nam Gospodin daruje dar razlikovanja duhova.
so that we can only see the spirit of pride.
Tako da možemo prepoznati duh oholosti.
Amen.
Amen.